All right. Thanks everyone for taking time out of your schedule to join us. Appreciate always the engagement. We have a few things to talk about today. Maybe the first thing we'll address is, as usual, the tech update. Rao, are you ready?
Yes, I am. I may have a rather weak internet connection, so you may be experiencing some choppiness in my voice. Ian, if you're able to share the screen, please, for the Community Update 217. I put the link in the chat also. With that, so basically the two main things or three main things that the team has been working on last week and even the time before then. There's been quite a bit of effort going into addressing the proper operation of shards, particularly with the shard ID related work that Stas and partly Tomislav had been doing. Then there were issues discovered with the multi-sig wallets, and RPC intends to use multi-sig wallets, and that's those issues are being addressed, and I'll speak to the details on that in just a little bit. And of course, the main thrust of what we're working on is the block merge code is already on testnet in the form of 0.13.0 alpha release. But the validation code is something that Tomislav and Greg have been working on to identify and address any logic issues in the finalization, make sure that everything is correct, and also to figure out the most reasonable way to implement those, which ensures correctness, but also consistent with the current state of the code and finding the optimal pathway to implement that. So those are the three distinct areas, if you want to think of it that way, in terms of the work that was going on. Of those three, the shard ID related work is complete, or at least mostly complete, unless there's some issues that need to be resolved. And that work has been merged both into the dev branch and O12 RPC branch. Right now, the way the RPC branch is being run is that it's mostly working off of the O12 branch rather than the O13 branch, because the O13 branch is still dynamic. But then there are changes in the O12 RPC that won't make it quite compatible with the O12 main. So that's how the branching is working right now. Now, in the near future, once O13.0 stabilizes, everything will be running O13X, whatever it is at that point in time. So the shard work for now seems has been completed. The multi-sig work is ongoing. Will and Dennis are working on it at this point in time. Basically, there were a couple of problems with the multi-sig. It did not have all the tests, and when we tried to use that with the public keys, when the team tried to use it with the public keys, it was failing. And Tomislav has written up on here what the issues are, and Tomislav has put in a PR to handle the use of multi-sig with public keys, which is how it should work. And then he has merged that PR both into the dev branch and the RPC branch. And there's an additional issue related to problems with multisig, and that is going back to a bug we already knew in Golang in terms of how Boolean conditions are evaluated. So that became relevant to fix now for fixing the multisig contract. So the team is working on that. Will and Dennis are working on that. And Will, the current thinking is to fix it using, this link was mentioned in the PR description also, or the issue description if you read through it. But I wanted to highlight that here, what is called short circuit evaluation. There are different ways of looking at Booleans, and if you're not familiar with what the issues are, please do go to the Wikipedia link on short circuit evaluation. It captures nicely the trade-offs that you're looking at when you take this approach. So Dijkstra has some comments or critique on that as to when it works and when it's problematic, that sort of thing. But since many of you will be developing Golang programs, and this is about how Boolean evaluation takes place in Golang, it's probably worthwhile understanding that link or reading that link. So that's what I would say on that. The other piece is, of course, the DAG manager related work, block receiver validation and DAG manager work. These are all things that are necessary for the finalization piece to be implemented. So Stas has been looking at that along with NutZipper. NutZipper has been helping Stas understand the code and the reason why it is what it is. And so Stas will probably start working in that area soon. But basically, they're doing a lot of knowledge transfer and answering questions in that part at this point in time. Dennis, as you may recall, was working on looking at the performance improvement of Golang primitives like map, set, list, things like that. So he did quite a bit of digging into that. And basically what he came back with is that really the performance issues there that need to be improved relate to the general performance improvement type of things we are supposed to be doing in Golang 1.1 optimization, primarily around the area of reducing COM events. So given that he has temporarily halted that work and he has switched over to fixing the multi-sig and this Boolean evaluation in Golang work with Will, and we'll get back to the Golang primitives work at a later point in time when it's appropriate. I mean, Golang 1.1 optimization is scheduled for the second half, I believe, at this point in time. But we'll get to it as we can once we complete all the other activities. Also, not necessarily related to the dev part directly at this point in time, though there may be a couple of items we have to do for external validators. A few external validators have started engaging with the code base and have started running nodes on the testnet. And the pathway or the plan there is to say that these will be considered trusted external parties in the sense that we'll have access to the logs and we'll have some service level agreements with them, whereby if there's a problem with an order or something, they promise to act upon that immediately without further deterioration in the network condition, things like that. And same applies to community members that are knowledgeable enough about running the nodes and being a validator on the network. So everybody that wants to be a validator should be starting with being a validator on the testnet right now. And over the next several weeks, that will then slowly migrate to when the code base is stabilized and any features that are needed for external validators are implemented will be ready to actually have external validators start working on the mainnet also. So that's a significant milestone also, in addition to the block merge related code completed. And I mean, not so much the block merge, but now the finalization code being completed and released on the mainnet. The other activity that's going on, there's substantial market engagement with enterprise customers, with systems integrators and others that want to develop and deploy on the RChain platform. So that activity is going on. You know, there are several of us that are engaging in those activities. So that's my tech update for now. And again, any wallets that need to make changes to use the minimum flow price parameter, please let them know if you're using any particular wallet or any other code that's running on the platform right now that needs to do that. Because when we have the migration, that's going to be one of the issues that everybody needs to be certainly up to date with. Otherwise, they will be broken. So that is my update for now. Any questions, comments on this? All right, over to you, Greg.
Thank you, Rao. Very good. Yeah, I've been speaking with the team extensively. I'm very happy about their work. And I've been meeting with Tomislav every day to make sure that any of his questions regarding the finalization are addressed right away. So I think we should be making some accelerated progress there. All right. The board met and it was largely an informational meeting. There were no resolutions voted on. As I've mentioned before, we are going to have to convert the two subsidiaries to LCAs in 2 steps. So we're expecting at the full board meeting to vote on those resolutions. So that will be our next Tuesday, if I have it right. So we'll get those resolutions kicked off so that we can do that. So we can get the paperwork filed with the Secretary of State of Washington. Any questions about that? All right. We have some other interesting news items. So I will be headed to Paris on the 9th. We'll be talking on the 12th with Ecole 42 and then presenting at the Paris Blockchain Week. I do want to say that in preparation for the Paris Blockchain Week, we have prepared an article co-authored by Anthony Garone and myself entitled 3 Lessons that the blockchain didn't learn from Web 2.0 but should have. The article should be out presently. You heard me give the spiel on not last week's call, but the week before. So even though you're familiar with it, I suggest reading the article. Anthony's writing is lucid, engaging, and entertaining. And after you've read it, maybe you could click like and tweet about it and retweet it so that we get more engagement on the article, because it's some important stuff, very important stuff. And I think we need to we need to spread the word as far and as wide as possible. And that article will be the substance of my presentations, both to Ecole 42 and to the Paris Blockchain Week. Just prior to that, I will pop over to London and meet with our partners for some enterprise engagement, hopefully. Well, more on that in the closed door session. But look, things are looking quite good there. So very excited about that. And more details for those who are interested in the closed door session. With that, let me turn it over to Daryl. Daryl, are you ready for the week in review?
I think so. Just a sec here. Okay, here it is. All right. So, hey, everybody, here's the week in review for March 24th to today, March 30th. On Friday in the Climate and Coordination RCast, Raphael Fabre of dappy fame joined us, and he explained more of his background and journey to how he arrived at dappy and talked about dappy's technology, the problems that dappy have solved. And I should have that up on the blog and YouTube over the next day or two. I don't have the Casper stand-up again, Greg. I guess you'll talk about that after.
I'll talk about that after, yes.
Okay. On Tuesday in the Communications Working Group, we mainly discussed further prep for the Paris Blockchain Week. And we also talked about the cadence of getting Anthony's new articles finalized and up on the blog and Medium. On Wednesday this morning at the Active Member Hangout, HJ asked Theo why the file is 4K on the RPC demo from last week's debrief. And Theo explained that it was nothing to do with the limitations of RChain or RPC. It was because of other limitations for the purposes of the demo. And then we started talking about storage and BitTorrent styled peer-to-peer storage and how to pay for the storage, etc., which led to Jim's RChip proposal from July 2021 around deleting unused files. And then Theo showed us a preliminary demo of transferring Rev using a drag and drop interface. And I think he's planning on showing that demo possibly next week's debrief. So it's exciting to see a little prelude of that. And that brings us to now.
Excellent. Thanks, Daryl. Any questions for Daryl? All right. So with respect to the Casper stand-up, we were just going over the finalization, the principles underlying finalization. So the main idea is that one should be able to look at the DAG as a causal structure. And so when we're doing partition merging, you have to make sure that any blocks which don't make it into the partition also suspend any merging of any deployments that don't have enough weight behind them from previous blocks or from blocks that don't have enough weight behind them. So yeah, just walking through what that means in terms of how you can do the partial finalization. If that's a bunch of technical gobbledygook, feel free to ask questions in Discord or in other channels. Let's see. Is there any other news we want to cover today? Any questions, comments, concerns from the community? All right. A reminder that the staking period is rapidly closing, and yeah. So if you want to engage in that, your window of opportunity is narrowing. Unless there's anything else from the community, I guess today will be a short one, for which I am exceedingly grateful. We have a lot of work on our plate. So please, everyone, stay safe, stay warm, and we'll see you on the other side.